Hey everybody, what's going on? Baru here, back inside of Borderlands 2 to bring you all my Borderlands 101 series. In this series, we're going to be going over all of the mechanics and introductions to Borderlands 2. Like I said, there's going to be a lot of new players coming with the Handsome Edition, or maybe just someone who's picking up the game for the first time. So let's introduce you to the first part of the game, which is selecting your character. Now, if you have only the base game, then you will only have 4 characters to choose from. Axton, the Commando, or Zero, the Assassin, Maya, the Siren, and Salvador, the Gunzerker. Now, what I'm going to be doing is giving you sort of a brief overview of what all of these classes have to offer you. Now, if you have the DLC or the Game of the Year edition, these will also come with Gage the Mech Romancer and Krieg the Psycho. But how do you know which class is going to fit your playstyle? The general descriptions of them are pretty vague. So let's go ahead and give you a brief overview of each class, their capstones, and what you can kind of expect from their playstyle. First off, we have Axton, the Commando. Axton is able to go into the battlefield with his turret, allowing it to sort of draw attention away from him. He excels in assault rifles and is sort of a jack of all trades rather than a master of a specific element or skill. He does excel very well with assault rifles and non-elemental weapons though, with the right build. And now, speaking of builds, every character in this game has 3 specific skill trees that all focus on different attributes. However, Axton is a little bit different, as each of his skills sort of are a jack of all trades. They all have unique things, but one kind of center focus. For survival, you'll focus mostly on, well, surviving. This will give Axton some survivability upgrades, as well as giving his turret the ability to have a shield, or even throw 2 of them. He even has the skill called Grit, which will make anything that would normally kill him actually heal him. This can give him pseudo-immortality. Now for gunpowder, you can attach a mini nuke to your character, as well as a variety of weapon buffs for your character and rocket launcher and grenade buffs, as the skill tree might imply. And then finally we have Gorilla. This is more of a bunch of random buffs for your character, whether it be movement speed, reload speed, some health regeneration when hitting an enemy. It's just a little bit all over the place. It'll also give you the ability to attach a rocket pod to your turret and be able to increase your turret's abilities by giving it a second gun and shoot slag bullets. What this will do is make it so you can debuff targets without actually having to debuff targets normally with a slag weapon. Now for our next character, we'll be taking a look at Maya the Siren. Maya the Siren has a special ability called Phase Lock, and what it will do is lift the target in the air, disabling it from doing anything to you. Now, if the target is either too heavy or, say, bolted to the ground or just unable to be phase locked, you will instead do direct damage to the enemy for a fairly large amount. Maya focuses on more control of the battlefield, as well as being able to heal herself and allies with ease. Now, much like Axton, she has 3 main skill trees. Harmony, which focuses on reviving fallen enemies, giving herself health regeneration and healing her enemies. Cataclysm, which focuses purely on dealing damage to the enemy, increasing your elemental effect chance, and dealing damage to enemies who are above a certain threshold of health. And then finally we have Motion, which focuses on a little bit of survivability skills, as well as the actual cooldown of your phase locking ability. And her final capstone for Motion is Thought Lock, which will actually mind control enemies and put them on her side of the battlefield. So if you're looking for a character that can take control of the battlefield, this one is for you. Next up, we have Salvador, the Gunzerker. Now the Gunzerker takes the ability of using guns and instead decides to double that, being able to hold 2 guns at any given time. This can create a lot of interesting combinations down the road depending on how broken you want to play this game. As such, Salvador has a lot of high damaging skills, however, doesn't really have too much in the way of synergy. So a fairly decent solo class, however, can have a little bit of an issue leveling up for the first time. Now, going over Salvador skill trees, we have Brawn, Rampage, and Gunlust. Brawn is going to focus mostly on survival, keeping the Gunzerker alive via health regeneration, reducing the duration of dots, and giving him just a little bit more mobility. Rampage is going to focus on your Gunzerking ability to be able to hold 2 guns, and Rampage will allow you to stay in your Gunzerk indefinitely. So there's a lot of different things that you can do to keep yourself alive and doing damage. And then we have Gunlust, which is going to focus entirely on doing damage. Every single skill in this tree is going to be all about killing your enemy just a little bit faster, and has a skill that I like to use, which is called Money Shot, which will allow you to deal a massive amount of damage for your final shot in the clip. Now, if you're looking for a character that has a hard time dying and can deal a lot of damage, this one's for you. For our next character, we have Zero, the Assassin, the final of the 4 vanilla Vault Hunters. Zero is an interesting character with 2 primary builds, sniping and melee. Both these builds are extremely powerful, but Zero does have a bit of a learning curve to him and can take some getting used to for new players. Zero focuses on going in and out of the battlefield with taking as little damage as possible by killing the enemy outright. As such, Zero does not have too much in the way of healing by just his base skills. So players who are looking to play as this class are going to need to be ready to use either Moxie weapons or have a high level of skill and using transfusion grenades. So, going over the assassin skill trees, we've got 3: Cunning, Assassination, and Sniping. Cunning is going to be more of an overall boost and debuffing of enemies, as well as being able to throw kunai with your capstone. Kunai will debuff the target, increasing their damage taken if you have the ability called Death Mark. This will increase their damage taken by 20% from every single source. For Assassination, it's going to focus entirely on melee. The skill will give you the ability that when you kill an enemy from your Deception, which is your main action skill, you will be able to instead stay inside of Deception and continue killing enemies. The Deception skill itself will basically make you cloaked and enemies will not target you, and you'll get a massive amount of damage when you exit the ability. Now, sniping is obviously going to be, well, sniping. You have a lot of different gun-based abilities, as well as the ability called Bore, which will allow you to go through as many enemies as possible, and some enemies that have weird hitboxes you'll be able to one-shot outright. He also has the final capstone called Critical Ascension, and what this will allow you to do is whenever you get a crit, you will do more sniper rifle damage and critical damage. With the right build, you'll be able to take on any kind of raid boss in just a few seconds to a minute, depending on which one you're fighting. So, if you're looking for a class that might have a bit of a high learning curve, but can output a lot of damage in a short amount of time, this character is for you. Next up, we have Gage, the Mech Romancer, the first of a DLC character. Gage, the Mech Romancer, is a very interesting gal. She has a death trap, which will damage enemies with melee Digistruct claws, as well as being able to buff you, give you your shield back, and increase your own survivability. Gage has a special ability called Anarchy, which will increase her damage at the cost of accuracy. So if you're okay with missing a few shots, then you will get massive damage in return. This character does promote a very up-close and personal approach to pretty much every fight due to Anarchy reducing your accuracy, so you're going to want to be closer to the enemy so you don't have to worry too much about that accuracy loss. Now, as with every other character, Gage does have 3 primary focuses. First off is Little Big Trouble, which focuses on status effects and elemental damage, as well as charging up her own death trap with elemental damage. Next up we have Ordered Chaos, which is going to focus on acquiring Anarchy, keeping it, and also expending it. Her capstone in that one will give you Digistruct Claws, using that Anarchy and dealing melee damage based on how much you have. Best Friends Forever is going to focus on keeping your character alive, as well as giving you a bunch of different survivability boosts. And all of the skill trees are going to allow you to boost Death Trap in different ways. The capstone for that one will give Death Trap a copy of your own shield. So, if you're looking for a character that has a pretty low learning curve, in fact, it's actually probably one of the easier classes to get started in Borderlands with, then this character is definitely for you. And now for our final class, which is Krieg the Psycho. Krieg the Psycho is literally insane and can pull off a lot of feats, but he is a very high risk, high reward type character. You're going to have to go for it if you want to get anywhere with this character. He has two main focuses. He has his Buzz Axe Rampage melee build and his Flame of the Firehawk Hellborn build. Now, you can play this character in a variety of ways, but the most notable one is typically his melee build, as that is what his action skill, Buzz Axe Rampage, is centered around. As you can see, he'll use his Buzz Axe to slaughter enemies with melee in just a few swings. Now, compared to Gage, this character does have a bit of a higher learning curve. Not as high as Zero, but still, you will have a rough time starting out as this character, so you will need to keep that in mind. However, if you put the time into it, he is definitely a very overpowered and strong character. Now, going over his skill trees, as we can see, he has three main focuses. Mania, which focuses purely on a melee aspect, as well as giving himself a bundle of dynamite to explode himself to kill an enemy to get a second wind. And Release the Beast, which, as you were seeing in the gameplay, allows you to become a badass psycho. Bloodlust is going to focus mostly on a bunch of different buffs for your gun, as well as a lot of melee buffs for the Mania tree. Hellborn and Bloodlust, Mania and Bloodlust, pretty much go hand in hand. And then Hellborn's going to focus entirely on dealing elemental damage to your enemies and synergizes extremely well with an item called Flame. So, if you like a character that screams about meat all day and has two entirely different playstyles, then this character is for you. So, that is going to go ahead and wrap up the first episode of my 101 Borderlands. I hope this helped you select your character. Let me know what was the first character that you started with, and based on this guide, if you're new here, what character are you going to start your Borderlands adventure on? If I have to make any suggestions, Gage and Axton are very good first-time characters, but pick the one that best suits your playstyle, and you'll enjoy it far more than what anyone else might tell you. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this video. The next episode will be up when it's ready, so I recommend subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, and if you enjoy this type of content and want to see more of it, be sure to hit that like button. Thank you all for watching, everybody, and I will catch you all in the next video. Later.